September 12th, 2023 Summers County Board of Education regular meeting. Let the minutes reflect that all members are present. And I would like to ask, we have with us tonight some of the Summers County Agricultural Science class. I'd like to ask them if they would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have item 3, approval of agenda with adjustments. I'm going to make a motion that we move the superintendent report from item 11 up to item 4 under presentations.
Second.
Motion by myself, seconded by Mr. McBride, that we move superintendent report from item 11 up to item 4 presentations. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that we will move item 11 superintendent report to item 4 presentations. Any other adjustments?
In the bills, I'd like to pull safe and sound to be voted on separately.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mrs. Harvey, that we pull safe and sound and handle that separately. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? The minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that we will pull safe and sound from the bills and handle that separately.
I'd like to make a motion to pull Jennifer Mann from personnel to be voted on separately.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Harvey, seconded by Mr. Brogan, that we pull Jennifer Mann in personnel and handle that separately. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that we will handle Jennifer Mann separately under personnel. Any further adjustments?
I'll make a motion we approve the agenda as read with the aforementioned adjustments.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mrs. Harvey, that we approve the agenda as read with the aforementioned adjustments. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the agenda has been approved with aforementioned adjustments. Item 4, we'll go first with the Cook's presentation. So you guys went on a trip to Denver, Colorado, and you're going to give us a little bit of information about that.
I'm not much for speaking, but I wrote something, so I'll read it and took pictures. She's going to prove y'all enjoy the show. First of all, I'd like to thank those that made our trip to Denver possible. It was a grand educational experience to go to the ANC conference, as well as traveling and seeing the country. On this trip, I also learned new things about our coworkers. I learned to appreciate them more. I took a lot of pictures because they are my main souvenirs, a visual memory to look back upon. The flight adventure to Charleston was a quiet airport with a small plane. We arrived at the Chicago airport late, with only 10 minutes until the Denver flight. We had to travel all the way across the airport from wing C to wing F. We walked as fast as we could using moving floors. This reminded me of the movie Home Alone. My power walking so fast, I messed up my foot again. The rest of the trip, I limped around. The Chicago airport is like a big mall with many wings and halls. It was huge. Denver airport was huge also and had underground shuttles to each part of the airport. Car rentals, wow, so many options near and around the airport. The sky was so beautiful looking from the plane. It's like you're sitting on cotton. The hotel was only 2 blocks from the convention center, so we walked it each day. Parking in that area was ridiculously priced. We went sightseeing the first evening after arriving, driving the Larry Cook, just looking at the scenery. We ate at a pub near the hotel. I ate a sandwich. It was good. The hotel was very nice. I was surprised we had our own beds. Seeing us snore, I kind of felt sorry for people who had to sleep with me. Their breakfasts were awesome. Arriving at the ANC conference on Sunday morning, we had to wait in a long line to check in. There was thousands of people there. The place was huge, a lot of walking. The first class we attended was for newcomers, first-time attendees, what to expect, what to do, etc. After the introduction, we broke apart with separate classes. Gail stayed with Connie. I attended a class increasing capacity for scratch cooking. Did you know by adding lettuce and tomato to a hamburger makes it scratch cooking? There are different stages of scratch cooking. It doesn't just mean cooking it fresh from the farm. It can be purchased frozen and cooked. We ate our lunch while seeing some displays in the hallways. A few vendors were set up. Their prices were outrageous. A slice of pizza was $8 and a bottle of drink was $5. When we registered, they gave us a water bag. I used it and filled it at the water fountain. These bags here, that's cute. They hook on your belt loop. My next class, the Velvet Road Workplace, some of what I learned is that employees don't usually leave jobs, but bosses. The top 2 reasons people leave jobs are poor communication and lack of appreciation. Words move people. A situation sounds solvable. Replace problem with situation. Exceed expectations. Praise in private. Be specific when doing it. It shows them someone cares. It takes 7 to 10 years to change a culture. I missed a culinary demo class, Land of Lakes and Hamachi, because by the time I got to it, it was filled up. Then I walked to the one Gail and Connie were at, and the door was closed and the sign said the class was full. My foot was hurting so bad, I just sat on the bench. The afternoon general opening session for all of us was history on last year's officers, this year's officers, etc. They had a speaker speak on culture. They had us engage with people we hadn't met before from other states. After this, we went sightseeing again. We found out most places close at 5. At least we got to see scenery. We were going to eat at Wendy's, but come to find out it was in a foreign neighborhood and all the signs, etc., was in a different language. So we went and ate back near the hotel at a different pub. Their food cost a lot more than last night, wasn't as good. I had a toasted sandwich. Thought it tasted funny. Come to find out it had mayonnaise on it, and I don't like mayonnaise. Monday morning, we all attended a culinary demo presented by Swan's Food Service. This was a chicken and veggie dumpling in a special sauce. It was okay. Chef Jet Tila did this presentation. He's one of Dr. Knott's favorite TV chefs. We got our picture taken with him. From 9:15 to 2:15 p.m. was the exhibit hall. Food vendors, equipment vendors, etc. This was phenomenal. My foot was hurting so bad I had to use the escalators. I only got through half of it. There was so much taste testing. I'll just let Connie do this, but I'll show y'all. This here is how big that was, and it had like lots and lots of vendors and lots of people. A few items I'd like to comment on was their chicken nuggets and chicken patties. They tasted like pickles were added. They were really good. I think the kids would love these. The gobbleback from Land of Lakes was outstanding. I loved it. It was macaroni and cheese with pork barbecue topping. The Kingship hash browns, they were good. I don't remember what all was in them, but they were good. The Dinana applesauce is so much better than the ZZ's. Of course, I know we get the ZZ's through USDA commodities. Fruit slushies and baggies like Capri Suns were very good. I took this back to the hotel and froze it and enjoyed it on one of our outings later. I wish I'd gotten more. They had vegetable juice boxes and bags, options for breakfast. The samples were delicious. They had some pizza crackers that were good. A variety of these I brought to the board office. Connie brought some of these tonight. They also had flavored water in a can that would be good for the high school vending machines. Of course, I know they're gone now. They had collapsible coolers, which were awesome for field trips. I'd hoped to win the drawing for a set of these, but I didn't. The exhibit was exciting. I had my picture taken in several booths. We had gathered so much stuff. This stuff being our first time, we were limited due to the baggage on the plane. We just had shopping bags, so this is the bags that they gave us, and that's all we kind of collected while we were there. Would you believe some members came with rolling suitcases to collect samples? Next time we'll be better prepared. I'm looking forward to the conference being on the East Coast next year. Maybe having it closer to home will have more items available from local vendors. This evening we drove and sightseeing some more. We finally got to see something open, we thought, the Red Rock Stadium. But would you guess they closed it early due to a movie night? We went to other places, Dinosaur Ridge, Mother Cabrini Shrine, Lookout Mountain, Buffalo Bill's Grave, Museum, gift shop. I purchased a nice wind chime for $12.99. By wanting to experience different foods in the area, we ate at the Fort Restaurant. This was quite expensive, a treat for sure. I had a sampler meal that included buffalo steak, elk, quail, potatoes, and green beans. It was delicious. This was a beautiful place. They even had a real teepee set up outside. Tuesday morning, we all attended a culinary demo together, the ITW FEG Vulcan. This class introduced the newer model ovens and steam cookers. Fascinating and very nice, something we need to look into in the future when we replace our equipment. We did talk about me getting new oven racks with a notch out of them for safety reasons. I think we kind of forgot that. I then went to Be Prepared, Plan Ahead, Steps for Emergency Preparedness. I'd forgotten my pen and notebook, therefore I didn't take any notes from this class. I did, however, take some pictures of the slides. I also got a booklet and gave it to Dr. Knott. This class reminded me of our school's emergency operation plan. The funnest class I went to was Be Fit for Food Safety. This class was upbeat and not at all boring. Action-packed all the way. They used a workout illustration throughout the whole class. They had people physically participating also. This class was like our food handlers, but much better. They had video demonstrations that were hilarious. I got a handout sheet for each of us. We skipped the final 80s dance party. We went sightseeing instead. This time we drove to the Rocky Mountains. I took lots of pictures. It was so beautiful. Pictures can't even describe it. We stopped at a visitor center gift shop. This was where I got most of my literature and pamphlets in the area here on the table here. I also got a souvenir deck of cards that have national parks on them with information where they are. The final place we ate in Colorado was Estes Park, Ed's Cantina and Grill. I had a bison burger and deep fried green beans. I'd love to bring them to the school. Time to go home, we had an early flight back to Chicago. This plane had many TV screens so we could watch movies for free. Unfortunately, I didn't have any headphones with me, so I didn't watch a movie. I did, however, watch the flight screen. We were over 39,000 feet in the air, over 700 miles per hour, and outside temperature was negative 53 degrees. We had some turbulence from the weather. It was kind of scary. When we landed in Chicago, the plane briefly fishtailed when it landed. So glad we landed safely. Our connecting flight to Charleston was canceled due to weather. Dr. Knott got us a rental car and drove us back home. We saw miles of windmills near Lafayette, Indiana. Then going through Indianapolis and Greenfield on I-70 brought back memories of when I was a child. I used to live there. I talked a lot on the way back, probably got on Dr. Knott's nerves. I wanted to stay away to make sure she did. In Charleston, we picked up her car and I drove to the board office. We didn't help her drive in the rental because of insurance. Bless Dr. Knott for driving. We arrived back just in time for work Thursday morning, 5:30 a.m. Work started at 6. They offered to get us a substitute for the day, but we didn't want a substitute. We wanted to work. We were tired, but we made it. And again, thank you so much. So that's my part.
Chad, I know that's not your thing anymore, but I think you just said your food handler's class is boring.
She hasn't had mine for about 4 years.
I don't know if y'all can see this or not to some degree. Anyway, thanks a lot. We really did enjoy the trip. We, had a lot of bonding and talking and enjoyed the time together and scenic, excursions in the evenings and then during the day. We had a lot of people from different states, different cooks and so forth. It was really nice. We enjoyed it tremendously. So, but anyway, at the convention center was like 3 levels, and it was huge. And then of course when we had the food show, I mean, it was really, I mean, there was a lot, and I never got through it the entire thing. So it was really nice. Of course, the classes that I had took one was Reaching New Heights with on-trend USDA food recipes and concepts. A few things that they pointed out was that the USDA suppliers are 100% farmers, American grown. And of course, they recommend that we look for farmers markets to support our local farmers. And another thing they pointed out in that class is if it doesn't sell, don't serve it. In other words, if the kids aren't going to eat it and don't like it, I mean, of course, some kids aren't going to like a few things, but if it's overall something they don't like, just, take it off the menu. So, and then they recommend that you build your brand by naming an entree. That way you kind of, have something unique for the kids. And then have a themed day, like maybe Mexican Day or Asian Day and stuff. We do some of that occasionally, And then I went to a class that said expanding your mobile breakfast. Of course, it was talk about middle school, high school. And they use carts to set up in different locations where the students might not go to the cafeteria, but they could use carts to, pick up a quick grab-and-go breakfast, which was kind of neat. And they said that smoothies also increases your participation. And then we went to the culinary demo with Schwann's Food Service with Jet Till, and I get his name mixed up all the time. So, but anyway, it was really nice. He had been with Schwann's for 13 years, and he had lots of items that he had helped put together for schools specifically. And the dumplings, I know Lisa and Gail wasn't crazy over it, but Mrs. Knott and I, we really liked the dumplings. They were delicious. So, and then of course we had the exhibit hall, and I truthfully ate too much food, so I can't tell you what I ate. I was just like, it was just unreal, but everything was delicious. And everybody was super nice in there, and as soon as we got out of there, which we had an app, on our phones, and then we, would let them scan our tag. Well, I had so many emails from all these companies, it's kind of crazy. So, but anyway, another class I went to was bring customers back to the table, show positivity to all students and staff, get feedback from your students. What would make you want to come and eat the school meals? And then have cafeteria monitors to engage the students and make them feel more welcome and enjoy their experience in the cafeteria. Of course, we also went to the same one that Lisa talked about, the culinary demo with the new oven, which was like the convection and steamer oven together. My favorite class was by this one lady. She was a motivational speaker, Maureen Mulvaney, and she's on, you can find her on mgmsuperstar.com. And anyway, she was the best class. I mean, she had us laughing. Gail, I mean, she and I both just cracked up. She was just really great. But she pointed out a lot of different things. 1 out of every 4 students goes hungry. Teachers can't motivate students if they are hungry. Good food helps raise the test scores, lowers behavior problems, and we have the most nutritious meals through the school system because we hit all the fruits, the vegetables, the whole grains, the proteins, and the milk, and we serve it in the right portions every day. And let's see, we can all do at least one thing in a child's life to make a difference. As for us cooks, it's serving the best meal we can possibly give them. And she pointed out to be always smile, be positive and productive. Happiness is a choice. Create happiness and spread hospitality. And of course there's Buffalo Bill's burial site. That's where we was on Lookout Mountain, Colorado. And this is Lake Michigan as we were traveling through Chicago. So, and then, of course, the convention center, and Ms. Knott had took a picture out over Denver at night, and it was really a nice picture. And these are a couple of the pictures that we had, you know, where we got as a group, and with Jack Tila. And he was a super nice person. Ms. Knott was, I mean, you could just see the happiness in her. And then, of course, the plane and the TP at the fort where we ate one night. Lisa, of course, we had there she is having dinner. We went to a Mexican restaurant. Of course, there's a little, what was it? The bird I wouldn't eat. The quail. The quail. It looked like a baby bird. I couldn't eat the quail. And then we had elk and buffalo. So but those were good, but the quail just couldn't do that baby bird. I mean, it just. And then some of the pictures we took through the food show, which, you know, we had the French fries and the Heinz ketchup pillows, and different things. But it was really nice overall. So we had a great time, and I really thank you all for allowing us to go. And, you know, Gail, she had a wonderful time too. So
Good.
But we all played card games coming back from Chicago and crazy stuff, and talked about everything under the sun. But we really enjoyed it. So, but thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, if you would like a snack, we have some snacks. If you want to try a snack.
It's not quail, is it?
No, it's not quail. I should have brought it back to Denise, the secretary. She said she would have wolfed that down.
She's like Mikey, she'll eat anything. huh?
Right. So, would you like to try a snack?
Kenny's starving.
Sure.
These are some of the snacks that are available. We'll let you have a choice. There's,
I'm not picky.
well, you just take your choice then.
That'll work. Thank you.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then if it's really delicious, talk to Ms. Knott, and she can say, well, hey, maybe we can get these things. There's
So
just,
Dr. Knott, you got a pour like something that's not bad at half,
Sounds
right?
good to me.
yes.
So was there any major takeaway that you all got from this conference that you think would be applicable to our school system, that you'd be able to apply in your daily job?
Yeah, several things like, you know, be positive and some of the things that I pointed out.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
We've already moved, some, like she said, the grab and go at this school, we've got 2 different spots for it, so we have
Okay.
a mobile place, and we've already increased, participation
Good.
a lot.
And you mentioned smoothies seem to increase participation in breakfast. Are those pre-made, or how do those come? You make them? Does that increase your workload by a large amount, or?
Not bad. We had made them 2 or 3 times before. It's been a couple of years ago, I think.
It's not bad right now with still being full-time, but when
Yeah.
she goes to part-time, or, hire someone to do the hire, it'll be rough.
Okay.
I think some of us mixed it up at the very end of the day. You know, of course, kept it in the fridge, and the next morning whisked it up with our things that we had in our, like a big fat gallon bucket.
Mhm.
And then we just cupped it up and had lids and straws and so forth. And I think the kids really enjoyed it, and you get all the fruit, and you got the yogurt and different things, and sometimes you can add a few little different things like cookie crumbs or sprinkles on some of the recipes that we had, you know. So, and I think it's on the menu in September, October. But one or the other. But anyway, we're gonna try it again, and it's gonna be with lunch instead of breakfast, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, and, you know, everybody, you know, of course, I'm a talker, and I got out there and talked to everybody, but, you know, they had a lot of ideas and different things, but then it's hard to take in everything at once, you know. But we did enjoy everything we got to do, and all the vendors, I mean, they were super, you know, and they want you to try this because they want you to buy their product, you know. And there was a lot of really good foods, you know.
And how's Dr. Knott's driving? You don't have to answer that.
Did you keep it under 90?
I'll mention some of the food that we wanted. Tanya looked into it. We can't get it because that's on the west coast.
Yeah.
and This is the east coast. So I'm looking forward to when it's in Austin, maybe the ones here will have similar products, then we can look into them products.
All right.
One thing that you said that really struck a nerve with me, and it's just something I had really never given any thought to, when you said that basically that it's important to you guys that the dining experience for our students is a good thing.
Right.
And I had never, it's just one more example of our employees are not just here for a check, and that's awesome. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I do like serving the kids, and we serve with a smile at Hinton area, and I'm sure the other kitchens do too, and we try to engage a few little words with them here and there, and we hear all kinds of witty comments too. And they're quick to tell us a few things, along. So, but I think it encourages the kids too, because over the years, grown to know a lot of these kids, and when we see them out, they come to us and want to talk to us, because they recognize us. But we really do like our job when we serve the kids. So, and I think it makes a difference in their lives, just knowing at least one person's there for them, and it's a good meal that we can serve,
Yeah, I think sometimes people may not realize the impact they have in the kids' lives. I've only been out of school a few years, but I still remember my elementary cooks, and I know who they were, and I remember conversations that we had.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you all make a big impact on these children when they come through your lines. We appreciate that.
We're glad that we can do that.
Yeah, we
really
appreciate it.
We were told years ago not to embrace the kids or hug them. If they wanted to hug us, not to do that. But I tell you, I break that rule all the time, because if they want to come up and give me a hug, they need a hug. They're not getting it at home or something, And I see them out in the store or at the water slide this summer and stuff. They'll come, my cook, and give me a hug. So.
We appreciate all you all do.
Stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
you.
We have, you can put them up against anybody in the country.
Oh, yeah.
They're top notch, and I always like with you and your daughter, never a dull moment. Then when I go to talk it, those ladies are always wanting to either serve you or talk to you, but always make sure they put their knives down before I talk to you. But they have a good banter about themselves, and that makes it nice too, because we do want our cooks to hug kids. We do want them to socialize, because some of our kids don't understand that these people have a life outside of cooking. They don't just serve you, but think about how many meals they serve in a day, in a school year, and they serve 2 out of 3 meals. Some kids don't get that third meal, so our cooks would know before anybody else if they don't get that third meal. So I bet some food has been given a little extra to some of our kids because they know them so well. Nobody's going to count the food. You're smiling because I know it. But we're not going to tell on them, because that's not how we do things here. We do what's best for kids, and appreciate what you ladies did. And as far as I'm concerned, it sounds like you endorsed Dr. Knott to do driver's ed. Okay. That's what I got out of the presentation.
She did a good job. Thank you for driving. I felt so sorry for you, but I knew the insurance was good to help, but yeah, you did good.
Well, ladies, we appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll do superintendent's report.
Yeah, I'd like to yield my time to Roger Hartley. He's our clerk of works for people that are seeing us virtually and people in this room. We had a special meeting today, and I know I've updated you guys the last couple times that we have a 2-wall problem with our future gymnasium out back with our middle school addition. I'm going to have Roger explain to you, because he could speak the language to let you know this is what is going on. This is what we're going to do to recover, and to let you know that Bradford and Radford did apologize today. They take full ownership of it, and they are not charging any extra for any of it. They're covering the cost because it's their mistake. The next question, however, and I'll have Roger walk you through it, is how are we going to recover from that, and are we still on time to get this done? So, Roger, I'll yield to you, and I know Mr. Matter it's trying to pull up a picture to kind of give you a reference point to what's going on here. The highlighted portion, if you look at it, is the wall, the two walls in question. The one at the top of the screen is the one that runs parallel to the railroad tracks, and the one vertical is the one that runs parallel to Bass Lake
That's the wrong.
area.
Sir?
Blue portion. That's highway.
Okay,
Or
railroad tracks.
Yes, sir.
So Roger, when he's done, if you guys have questions, please ask him, because we're as a team, we're working together. It's imperative that we open the lines of communication between everybody, because we want to get this done not only on time, but safely. And so future generations will have a nice facility, because this is not done just this year. This is for the next 100 years is how I look at it. So, Roger, the floor is yours.
Thanks, everyone, for particularly inviting me here this evening. I'd like to address, as David had indicated, a negative aspect of this project. I'd much rather come here and address positive things, and I know you'd much rather hear those, but you need to hear the negative things also. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it. And prompt to prompts. The walls in question, as David had mentioned, this is the gymnasium, by the way. The walls in question, that there has been a mistake made by the general contractor during the layout portion of the gymnasium foundation. The foundation is the foundation footing in which everything is built upon. This is the north wall, the downriver wall. East is toward the railroad track and the highway. This particular wall, it was discovered by the contractor themselves through their third-party survey company that this wall was 2 inches out a square. The opposite wall was 4 inches out a square. So they took steps. It's been about a week and a half ago. They demolished this CMU, or concrete block. They demolished the wall already. They utilized part of it as fill so they can gain access with their equipment for bringing in block for the block work that's being done at this time. But it is demolished down to the footer, what's called the footer foundation. The north wall, it was verified today for about the second time through third-party surveys, including your design firm. They have another associate, Pickering Associates, who are responsible for the foundation work on the entire project of the addition of I say junior, I go back ways, for the middle school. This wall, the entire length of the north wall, or downriver wall, is 12 inches to the north, too far. So your entire gym is 12 inches too wide.
Let's give us one more seat on the bleachers.
It sure would.
Except for the trusses for the roof won't fit on.
That there's a
Trusses
problem,
would
Mr. Angel.
just be short enough. Fit over top. Did that do something? I don't know.
Maybe reconnecting.
I'm sure I'll lead into. I might have touched something. Just keep going. Okay, keep going, okay. The contractor, as David had mentioned, admitted to it is their mistake. It is their responsibility to fix it and make it per design, as designed, and totally they incur the cost of labor and material to make it right. No cost, additional cost incurred to use the client. I'll be there as the clerk in the work, as the public works. That's kind of odd for me because I've been in this business for 51 years, 2 days, 17 minutes, and 34 seconds. I never thought I would be a clerk, nothing against clerical profession at all. But I thank you really for the opportunity to be your clerk of the works on this project. The fix, basically, the contractor, thank you, the contractor, Radford and Radford, in order for them to make the correction, which I'll get to in a minute, they have to have a design drawing from professional engineers and designers that tells them what's going to be required to make the correction, to correct the mistake that's been made. That correction will be the existing, the blue line is the concrete block. On each side of it is a spread of a concrete footer. It's so wide, so deep, rebar, blah, 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 blah. The fix is going to be tearing out this block wall that's been installed or laid, as they say in the trade, so far. And it's about 3 to 4 cinder blocks or concrete blocks high. They tear that out. They're going to add a 12-inch block, which is what the design is, a 12-inch wide concrete block. I'm sorry if I'm blocking somebody from seeing that. That's exactly the width of the block, that the distance they need to shorten the width of this north wall to come this way. Just can't lay it on the edge of the existing footer. That'd be kind of like if you're in a boat, for example, and you lean to the side, that boat might start tipping. Well, with the footer, it might be 10, 12 years or 50 years from now that it could fail to some degree. So the fix will be by structural design engineers is they're going to dig out, tear the existing block out of the way. They're going to add the additional footer to what's existing. The way they'll do that is Radford will excavate beside the existing footer on the inside, and they will dowel or drill holes specified by design as to the size of the rebar reinforcement. They will drill holes horizontally at various dimensions throughout the entire length of this wall. They will epoxy, Hilti is a reputable brand. Using epoxy, they will epoxy those rebars into the existing footer that is in place at the present time. And then they will follow design's drawing that's provided to them. And they will add, and it's not been determined yet as to, by design, as to the additional width of the footer that needs to be added. But it will also have rebar, just from things I've been experienced with through the years. Usually design will come back and say, well, instead of using number 5 rebar, we want you to use a larger rebar. So that's going to be the fix. And also, I must say, these areas, for example, here, those are the locations of the pilasters. You have them on both the north and the south wall. That's where the support steel, the arch that you see in the back stored along the roadway, back there where the Clerk of the Works office is and the health center is located. Those set on those concrete blocks. They are filled 100% with mortar, grout mortar. They also have to do what they call a bump out here. They have to make those wider than the addition width of the foundation, footer foundation that's going to be added onto by whatever dimension design tells us to do. It is anticipated that design is to provide that information by this Friday. And if the dissemination of that information is made in a timely manner, the contract could start as early as Monday. In fact, they may start early Monday before they have the design. What I mean by that is they can start excavating beside the existing footer and they can start demoing out the existing concrete block without the exact dimensions known. You know, it may, I think, didn't they range from the designer said it's going to be between, I think it was 18 inches and 24 inches of additional footer placed by the existing footer. Let's see if I missed anything.
You got enough footer on the east wall to just cheat over a little bit?
Yeah. It's in the center of the footer anyway, so one end is, as I mentioned, is 2 inches, the other end is 4 inches.
Design didn't have a problem with that. They have a huge problem with the other wall though.
Right, with the north.
So when they
This is
excavated,
the problem child.
so when they excavated, they have a 2-foot scoop, so it's gonna be 2 foot wide more. So that's gonna be quite a bit of a footer now. Where they get rid of that wall, we have to get rid of that because now it's basically gonna be in the hallway. You can't have that wall there because now that's, so it has to get knocked down to floor size because we need to get our hallway back.
Right. In fact, what they'll do is they won't take out the CMU block that they've laid so far along this at the present time. They'll take out a portion, because most of it's already been core field. Every cell was core field. During the project, for example, a non-load bearing wall, when you core fill it from bottom to top, it's normally like every other cell, or in some cases between rebar that they are required to insert, and is filled with, with the grout mortar. In this case, 100% on all the walls, and also the pilasters, as they are called by design. I call them columns. But a portion or the lower layer of CMU block, it'll be used to help provide additional support for the concrete floor that will be placed later on for the hallway. Let's see, something else I wanted to cover with you. The contractor, in this case Radford, they have in their entire company 3 masons and the appropriate number of attendees who mix the mortar through the machine, appropriate proportions, and take that to the masons and continue bringing block and mortar and whatever. Therefore, they want to expedite getting the correction made and start immediately on laying block. And what the project manager told me this afternoon following our meeting that was at 2 to discuss this problem is that he and his boss, Mr. Radford, and another party are currently looking for qualified masonry contractors to hire additional people to be able to expedite this, because as everybody in here realizes, or maybe some don't, but one of these days it's going to be wearing a coat to work and freezing, and particularly with masonry work, we're up against a timeline of freezing weather. Hopefully that won't be to January, but I think it's going to be sooner if you read the Farmer's Almanac articles about cold and snowy winter. But anyway, they are looking for additional masonry support to be able to work that, because one reason is they need additional manpower, because if they pull the 3 masons and the tenders off, that means something else suffers schedule-wise. Not shown on the drawing, but there's a hallway here. Visualize this. On the other side is the row of 6th grade classrooms and also the administrative offices. That block work is currently going on. It needs to continue. And it would be right to our client to pull these folks off of one job and put them on a fix through whether it was their mistake or design's mistake. So they're looking for additional support to be able to work this and continue the work that they're already doing per their schedule.
How do you expect this setback to affect our anticipated completion date?
Anticipated completion date is into, I think substantial completion is April the 28th?
Yes.
None. None at this time.
So does, since there's work on the other side of this, what'd you say, north wall?
Yes, ma'am, the downriver.
Okay, since there's work that's being done on that side, does this mistake have any impact on that work that's being
No,
done?
and the reason, good question, thank you. The reason it doesn't is because both Radford and Radford hired a third-party survey. They were out here yesterday, and they were again here today. They were double-checking and triple-checking the corner points of each of these. For example, the row of sixth grade classrooms, they checked that out again today. They also checked out the corners, exact corners of the gymnasium, and also the primary design contractor. The design contractor that they hired, Pickering and Associates, who were responsible for doing structurally everything underground. They were here late morning into early afternoon. They also did the same thing. So they've double checked. Both are third party, nothing to do with R&R or the design firm. And that's a good thing. You wouldn't want a contractor to bring in their own folks and, yeah, it looks good to me. You know, sometimes you be told what you want to hear. But in this case, these are third-party reputable design firms or survey companies in this case. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, and I got a couple more.
Sure.
So how does this kind of mistake happen in the first place?
Well,
Like, how do we get
the way the
a whole
mistake,
12 inches off?
I think, to be blunt,
Please do.
I think sometimes inexperience comes involved. Number two, in the case of this mistake, there is I don't know if you can follow this or not, there is a different dimension block utilized here. There is a larger block used in this area. The measurement was done down here when they were laying this out. That's basically why they were 12 inches off too wide. I'm sorry, they measured up here. Yeah, they assumed, you know what happens when you break that word down, but they assumed that this dimension they took here when they started laying it out is going to be the same on the opposite end. And that's how it occurred. It was different dimension of concrete manufactured block.
And who's responsible to oversee that part of it?
Should be the contractor's alone responsibility to make sure that what they had the survey company to lay out, that it was true and honest and it was a good path forward for them to start digging and putting in foundation footers.
And so how or what will be put into place to make sure that we don't end up in a similar mistake moving forward?
Excuse me, ma'am?
How or what will be put into place to make sure that these kinds of mistakes don't happen again moving forward?
Well, talking with the project manager for Radford following the meeting today, we were out in the field on the job site looking at that and a couple of other things, is that he's going to be more involved with any further surveying and point or building corner layouts to help ensure that what we do in the future, or what they do in the future for you is true and correct. Build it right the first time. And again, as David said, the project manager really apologized at the meeting we had at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And he also, something that David and I and Chad already knew this is on them, their cost, totally, for labor and material. And I'm here
And
to watch
surveys.
that.
Yeah, well, and the design, the updated design, are they paying for that as well?
Yeah, they'll have to.
Oh, yeah.
They're nickel,
Yeah,
yes, ma'am.
we're not paying for any more. And SBA, I contacted.
Or for any survey.
SBA is full aware of all this too, because it's their money too, you know?
Well, and this is not, I mean, we've had the concrete
No.
issue, water line issues, and now this, and it's.
Well, it's what you call low bid.
I wasn't gonna say that out
Well,
loud.
I'll say it for you.
I just didn't say it.
I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's
No,
just the
I
truth.
understand.
You get what you pay for sometimes, and
Yeah.
We didn't
that's,
have
and to answer your question, you
no
know,
choice.
I called a special meeting today. I was very adamant that we have the engineers there, not only ours, but the guy who did it out of Pickering. And it was nice that he was there because he's not connected to anybody, and he's keeping, I don't want to say everybody honest, that kind of sounds bad, but he's making sure, because he has to sign off on this. And the points there, I learned a lot today of different block size. But here's the problem that I have with that. The person that they're running as their superintendent is a young guy. He's in his mid-20s. He doesn't have experience like he did. So Roger has the experience. The other guy has the energy. Not against you, Roger. He has all kinds of energy, but he's getting in there and he's not seeing the next moves that could cause a problem. He needs to back off and see what's going on. You have to have someone oversee it. I know some people make fun of people standing around, but sometimes you need someone to stand around to see, I better measure that point again. If he didn't have the background he had, he alerted me and said, I don't think they're up front with everything. I'm hearing some things. I'm doing measurements. When he did his measurements, then I really listened. And then when we got to our meeting last Tuesday, we meet every other week, it just didn't seem like things were adding up. So then when I called this emergency meeting, all of a sudden it got real with these guys to say, guys, here's the agenda that Roger and I worked on together to put out. And all of a sudden we had to go down every point and say, what's the recovery plan and how soon can we get it? So I said, I want everybody to have a plan by this Friday so we can move, because I'm telling you, it's going to get cold. It always gets cold and always gets warm certain times of year. It's not really hard to figure out. And I don't need a farmer's almanac to tell me we're going towards cold weather, but we got a lot of area that needs to get under roof real quick. And I know how tall that concrete's got to go, and it does. These poor guys that are laying block, they're not at fault, but they're getting frustrated too, because
Their morale's
been knocked down, but we've told them we appreciate them because those guys put in 40 hours, they're beat. You can't ask for another 20 if they're already worn down to a nub. And anybody that's laid block knows that you only have so much energy. And then I don't want them to make a mistake because now they're hurrying or they're tired. So it's a real push and pull right now. But we have a plan. We're moving forward.
let me mention about, further about the cold weather. There's a national organization, the International Concrete Institute. They have rules, regulations, and guidelines as to how concrete is to be prepared, and so much time, the time it's prepared at batch plant and arrives at the job site. In fact, it's 90 minutes that, per their standards, make it at the concrete plant, you get it to the site, and, within just a few minutes, truck may be a little bit late, but 90, 95 minutes, you're supposed to start placing that concrete. Well, with mortar that holds the block together, there's a standard that, regarding temperature, that I may be off a degree or so here, so forgive me for that, but the standard is for mortar, temperature-wise, that if the particular day that the block masons or the masons are going to be laying block, and the temperature is 30 degrees that morning and rising through the day, that they can apply the mortar. But they have to take special precautions. There are insulated blankets that have to be laid over the blocks that they lay during the day, and to keep the heat trapped in, et cetera, et cetera. However, if it was 30 degrees tomorrow morning and it was not going to be over 32 or 33, no blocks laid. the mortar would freeze, you'd have a failed mortar situation. So I wanted to explain that to you about what our purpose is to get things corrected and get back to business before the cold weather gets here.
We are fortunate to have Roger as our clerk of works. He does a great job of keeping an eye on things, and that's what he's paid to do. And we appreciate, I know I really appreciate you. I'm sure the board does. I just heard Renee say, I can understand him, which that's hard sometimes to speak the language so people don't speak over you or beneath you, however you want to look at it, saying, I want to
I'm
educate.
just an old construction hand, started out as a union pipe fitter out of Charleston.
You do a great job
Several
educating
years.
Chad and myself all the time, saying, fellas, I don't know about this. And then that's how you're like, uh-oh, this might not be good information. And others, he's telling the guys, you're doing a great job. But do you guys have any other questions?
So, did you have something? Okay. I'll start off kind of with this, echoing Ms. Harvey's comments. I've built a few buildings in my time. I'm not a contractor by no means, but I know the most important thing is to know where your four corners are.
Yes, sir.
And make sure it's square. So for this is a big mistake. And I'm not going to dwell on that. We've got a plan moving forward, but I just want to make that statement. So I do have two concerns. The new footer that's going to go on the downriver wall, where are the block going to lay on that footer in relation to the joint between the two footers?
Okay, for example, let's say that this table is the existing footer,
Okay.
the north footer. Design, engineers, designers are running through their calculations of adding on to this existing footer to make it wider.
Mhm.
And the means to do so will be calculated by structural design engineers as to how, it may be thicker, the addition.
Mhm.
It may be thicker than what's there, don't know. Design will have to come forth and say, oh, here's what we calculated, blah, 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 blah. They'll be adding rebar, should, both horizontal and vertical. And also, when I mentioned about adding dowels, that's a length of rebar
Right.
that they'll drill a hole in the
Right.
side halfway down of the thickness of the existing, sorry if I'm standing here, half the thickness of the existing footer, they'll drill holes at a certain diameter and use a certain size rebar.
Right.
And it'll be inserted, let's say, 6 or 8 inches into the existing
Right. And that's all to tie these two
It'll be
footers together.
epoxy.
Yeah.
And I've, in fact, during my career as a
So I guess let me rephrase my question.
okay, I'm sorry. if I-
So no, from where the blue line is,
Yes, sir,
that's our existing wall.
correct.
How much distance do we have? How much footer is sticking out to the interior of that existing
present
wall?
time?
Yes.
It's approximately, I took dimensions, provided it some information to design.
Is it around the 6 to 8 inches?
It was, let's see, we installed another 19 inches.
So there's
19 inches.
19 inches. So the existing footer, the new block
The new block
are
set.
Still be on the existing.
still be on the existing
Sorry
footer.
for lack of better choice of terms. The new block, and you're looking down on it, okay?
Right.
The new block will set, butt it up to the existing 12-inch.
So it's going to sit on the existing footer, but the new footer that will be poured is going to stabilize that existing
Yes, sir.
footer.
In effect, what it'll do is by widening the existing footer and these jump outs, as I call
Mhm.
the columns that support the steel, what that does is give more bearing of a foundation footer, more bearing space, more kit.
And so let's just say, for sake of argument, 20 years down the road, we have a problem with this wall. Based on the recommendation that we are being given to move forward and use this existing footer and add to it, if we have trouble with this wall 20 years down the road, who would be responsible for that?
That's a legal question.
Yeah, that's
That
a legal
far down the
question,
road,
but just,
it's us.
I guarantee you,
Right.
once you get that far,
Pardon?
that's gonna be on the owner, I would imagine. I don't know without asking, but I would assume what they could do though is whoever the board is at that time could say, we'd like to take legal actions against whoever was involved with
If they're
it.
still in business.
Well, that would be McKinley and R&R.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say,
Okay.
just.
It would be those three
Yes, on
entities.
my part, it would be the design folks that told the contractor what to do to fix the problem.
Okay. And then one last question I have. So you mentioned that some of the block that was being taken out is being used as fill right now so they can bring equipment in and
On
out?
the east wall,
Yeah.
it was just access.
Okay.
Right.
Is that going to be removed?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Everything,
all right.
it'll be cleaned down to the footer,
Okay.
down to the.
All right, because that was my other concern, was that if you tried compacting that, there could be void spaces in there that could cause problems down the road.
No, they won't approve that anyway, because when you test that, it's, that compaction test, that would fail it right there.
Yeah.
Now, that rebar will have to be cut out of that too, and drill new holes for the new rebar that was put in when it was wet. So all that's gonna come out.
Pieces.
Yeah, okay, thank
That's
you.
a shame too, because it's not that old, and you're just like, this is a waste. It's such a waste.
You know, I'll say during my career, had some similar situations arise. And, I was in Afghanistan for 7 years, and prior to that, Iraq for 4 years. And most of them were local contractors, which they were vetted to get on these military bases where our coalition forces were. But there were mistakes made, and that's part of construction. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but over the years, there's mistakes that are made, just like sometimes we make mistakes at home, you know. But the thing is that the contractor caught on their own mistake on the east wall, and it was later determined that the north wall, oh my golly, is 2 inches too wide, the entire length of it. And again, I think sorry about the term, the bean counters, they'll be looking at the charges and basing that on what was estimated in the contract that, in this case, Bradford agreed to build it for. Now, one thing I want to mention too, and I'm sorry if I've taken
Nope, you're
more
fine,
time than
you're
I
fine.
should have. Every 2 weeks, we have an update meeting attended by the parties, Chad, David, other folks from the school board, the school system, and contractor and engineering, and myself, IT. And at that time, Bradford provides a 2-week updated schedule. As part of that, there's a cover sheet that lists what % of the overall project they are completion-wise. And it also lists on that same 8.5 to 11 page, it lists areas where they are behind. And anybody that sees that page, like for example, last Tuesday's meeting was passed out along with the updated schedule. Total completion to date is 63%. Don't let that mislead you, because that 63% also includes all the block they bought and delivered to the site, all of the subcontractors' HVAC equipment and their ductwork, the electrical cabling that's been bought, and all their conduit that they're putting in and all that. So that also includes materials delivered to date. So actually, the 63% is a little bit less with what's in the ground or above the ground right now.
Of actual work.
Yeah, actual work. Thank you.
Well, we got a plan.
I hope next time that you ask me to come here, David and Chad, that I'm giving you some positive things. Well, I will. I'll give you a positive
I look
thing.
at this as positive because they could have tried to hide it. They could have said it's not our fault, and then we'd have to get our attorneys on this. I mean,
Yeah.
guys, they owned it. We're moving forward.
And basically, it was caught in its infancy, so to speak.
Yep.
Right,
They didn't have a 30-foot
Right.
wall.
right.
And then they tried to set steel and, ooh, It's only short, only short on one end, the structural steel. But there are positive things out there too. Next week, they're moving ahead with the area where the science lab, science prep, some storage rooms, boys, girls, locker rooms, toilet, whatever. Either tomorrow or Monday, they're gonna start putting down the steel decking. That's what the roof is installed upon. And so once that is done, they'll be contacting the roofing contractor or sooner to come in, start extending the roof on down. And so that helps what they've constructed so far be dried in. And I think week after next, for the south end, where the 8th grade classrooms are, the mechanical, electrical room, some of the 7th grade classrooms, you're going to see some sheetrock coming in very soon, and some painting. They have a plan, Radford, that they're going to put in temporary doors, and they have already in their repertoire heaters, and they'll temperature control the inside so they can do the wallboard and the mud it takes and the painting and whatever. So we're moving. There are some positive things too. Yeah, mistake made, we're fixing it, or they're fixing it, but we're fixing it together.
Does the timeline to finish on time, does that hinge on them being able to hire the additional masonry?
To a degree, yes, to answer your question. And unfortunately, at this time of year, every owner who is performing some type of a work, whether it's pouring a foundation for a home or a new Walmart or the new hotel downtown Hinton, they're all wanting to do this work before cold weather gets here. So they're all hustling to get their concrete work done and their masonry work done. So it's at times hard to find people. But the PM assured me, he said, I'll find more people, qualified people to do the masonry work, so we don't have to pull the ones they have. They're already. And there'll be some extended hours in there too.
Think you'll get the whole thing under roof before bad weather hits? Just a rough guess, what are you thinking?
I'm saying,
Get right in.
at today's meeting, based on certain things, that it looks like the floor pad for the gymnasium, it will be the first part of November. I'm gonna, and I know I don't have the magic ball, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be December before they can get the walls up, the steel up, and the roofing contractor to do their dome roof. It's gonna be close.
Yeah,
And
my
that
goal would be
includes, good
before
weather.
the new year, to
Depending
be
on the weather.
realistic, before January, but I just don't know. I mean, you just don't know.
It's like when I was with Radford before as the superintendent, until I thought I was sick, according to my doctor. I had, over the course of taking out the unsuitable soil down to 5.3 feet, entire 10 feet out beyond the exterior walls of the new middle school, and putting back engineered, tested soil, I lost 22 days because of bad weather. It's hard to work dirt with a dozer when the mud's about that deep already, but a lot depends on the weather that we have. I'm hopeful we have good weather and things could go maybe.
We wasn't holding you to it. I was just curious if you had a ballpark guess.
That's
Would
just
be
my
right
part
in.
that I said.
That's good, thanks.
Yes, sir. Anybody have any questions?
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you for coming and giving us
Right.
that report.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Have that back.
All right.
Part of that.
No
Thanks a
problem.
lot.
No public comments?
If you see me on the site, give me a shout. I'll show you around.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, sir. So there are no public comments. Item 6, we have approval of minutes. We have before us the August 22nd, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Mrs. Harvey, seconded by Mrs. Farley, that we approve the August 22nd, 2023 minutes. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the minutes from August 22nd, 2023 regular meeting have been approved. We have before us now the bill for Safe and Sound.
I'll make a motion, we pay Safe and Sound.
Second.
A motion by Mr. McBride, seconded by Mrs. Farley, that we approve payment for Safe and Sound. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by 4-0 vote, with Mr. Brogan recusing himself, that the bill for Safe and Sound has been approved for payment. All right, we have before us the remaining bills for this cycle.
I'll make a motion, we pay the remaining bills.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Farley, seconded by Mr. McBride, that we pay the remaining bills. Is there any discussion? Let's see, we're paying the bill for the traffic light. The traffic light bill's on there for you.
Yeah.
Jack. All right.
Reimbursed.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so before us, the remaining bills, no discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the remaining bills have been approved for payment. Okay. Item 8, we have superintendent goals for the 23-24 school term. And I'm going to make a motion that, according to West Virginia Code 6-9A-4, paragraph 2, personnel, that we go into executive session.
Second.
Heard you first, Mr. McBride. So motion by myself, seconded by Mr. McBride, that we go into executive session. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that we go into executive session at 6:13 p.m.
You say 6:53?
6:53. Good. All right, so executive session adjourned at 6:53. Just a general statement, we have worked with the superintendent to set the goals for the 23-24 school term, and those will be in place until they will require us to evaluate the superintendent prior to June 30th of 2024. All right, we'll wait just a minute for Ms. Farley to rejoin us.
There's nothing to worry about over 20,000. So
Okay.
that we can still, I'm just kind of looking through the whole.
All right. Item 8, old business. B, discussion or possible action regarding dual credit courses, grow your own MOU with Concord. I'm assuming this was most likely developed by the state in
You wanna go over that
Concord.
a little bit?
Same as last year, state, you initiate with the state, it goes to both parties, and it's a state-led process.
Okay. And do we have students enrolled in this program now, currently this year?
We have perspectives at this point.
Okay.
Our issue is just the age of the students, they're underclassmen.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we approve the MOU with Concord University for Grow Your Own.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mrs. Harvey, that we approve the Grow Your Own MOU with Concord University. Any discussion? One question, does this cost us anything to participate in this? Will it cost us when we have students old enough to
It's
participate?
full credit.
Okay,
We just, that would pay and reimburse.
okay, all right,
Do we have the opportunity,
The state, and that pipeline comes from the state level, as far as the reimbursement.
okay.
are we able to provide the dual credit courses required? Do we have the staff and?
They staff in the Concord.
Those would be similar to the dual credit WVU Tech.
Yes, you have some that would overlap. The biggest thing with Grow Your Own are the 4 education classes that feed into any state teacher education program. That's the hallmark of it, along with other core area credits.
Okay. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the Grow Your Own MOU with Concord University has been approved. Item 9, new business. There are no purchases over $20,000. Item 9B, I'm going to step out of the room and recuse myself, but before I do, I want to apologize to the Summers FFA students who are here. I should have moved you all further up on the agenda, so I appreciate you sticking around.
Okay, we have before us now discussion, possible action to approve overnight trip, FFA, Kathy Duffield, Ripley, West Virginia, September the 20th to the 21st, 2023.
I make a motion, we approve the overnight out-of-state, the overnight trip to Ripley, West Virginia.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Farley and second by Ms. Harvey to approve this trip. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The record reflect by 4-0 vote, the motion passes with Mr. Angel recusing himself.
Thank you, Jake. All right. We have now, under new business, item C, discussion or possible action to approve the following MOUs. Council of the Southern Mountains Foster Grandparent Program, AmeriCorps Seniors, Patricia Ward for Occupational Therapy Services, Cindy Wilson, Greg Mentor, and Susan Kincaid.
Just a note, the last three are like last year, paid from, is that ARP 2 now? COVID money? I can't remember which we're at. It's ARP, right? ARP. Yeah. So COVID monies, those three for student loss of academics. 2 of them are math and 1 is language arts.
I'll make a motion that we approve the MOUs.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. McBride, that we approve the MOUs. Any discussion?
On the OT services, how does that compare with the other OT services that we're using currently?
I wish Dr. Knott was in here, but Adam, correct me if I'm wrong with special ed. Sometimes it depends on the number of people you have to serve. And you gotta get that service to those kids because of the IEP that's written. Is that pretty much what's?
Yeah, it could be an overage, like, if there's too many on a caseload in school, or there's logistical issues, that would give us 2 options. They're all items.
So it's not a fixed cost, it's a variable cost?
It'll just, yeah, based on how many kids.
And then that is funded through the federal government, IDEA.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question because that number fluctuates year by year on that.
And there is no funding on the grandparent program, right?
Correct. We're just supporting it.
And they already have a person?
Yeah.
Did I understand that? Okay.
Yes.
And I know we've had this discussion multiple times, and I'm gonna ask again because so Greg, Cindy, and Susan says 32 and a half days. Those are actual days they are here
Correct.
in our county.
Yes.
Okay, in our
And
schools.
the reason why we come up with that number, now, please don't laugh at me, but when you have COVID money and you have so much funds, you have to say, well, this is the amount of people we have, here's their costs, you divide it up. That's why it got to a half a day. If you go over that half a day, then the county pays for it. If we go under it, now we're leaving money on the table.
Okay.
Is that pretty much explained?
Yeah.
Did that help there, Cassandra, pretty much?
I probably got the number. I don't know if that helped.
See how a CSBO supports me? That's how I got the number.
Good.
I know it looks weird to see a half a day, that's why.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. McBride. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the MOUs listed above have been approved. Discussion possible action regarding levy. So I did talk to Mr. Warble about this today, and we as a board just need to decide if we're going to move forward with running a levy at the next election. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, do we as a board decide the levy and what amount we want to run that levy for?
Yeah, so if you go out to the public and do a listening campaign and hear what people have to say, there's 100%, or you can ratchet it back and make a decision to say, well, the voters might agree on, let's say 30%. I'll just use that as a number. If voters you hear are saying, I don't mind a levy, but I don't want it at 100%, then you try to see what people are looking at. I would say let's keep it below the 50-40%. I think that
I
would,
agree.
that would be probably the best thing to start with, to see what people think. So to answer your question, I know it didn't 100% answer it, but I know I'm talking around in circles a little bit, but I don't know what the community wants. And I think that, I don't want people in the community to think we have a set number. I would just say the set number we do not have is we do not want to go full 100%. I don't think that's a smart move. I think we start looking at something below 50%, and I think with the numbers we crunched, we could get by with below 50% for the stuff that we need to keep stuff moving after we don't have COVID money. And examples of that would be school resource officers, community schools, facilities, and the big one is student services, where we make sure all kids are bused to all their sporting events, field trips, extracurricular activities, things of that nature. Those are just some examples.
Is there a cost for us to run a levy on a ballot?
There is, but you can always, each county can talk to their commissioners to see about the cost. And I don't want to say waive it 100%, but it can be discussed, if you will.
Okay.
So would you like us to run numbers to get that for you?
So my next question,
Oh.
which kind of leads into they're together, when do we have to notify
For if we run
if
one
we're
in
going to
May,
run one in May?
I'll get you all the dates, the last day that we have to do it by.
So I'm one board member, but
We got plenty of
my
time.
thoughts are, rather than making a decision today,
Right?
I would like to start our community campaign outreach and determine what kind of support we can get from the community.
Okay.
And data collecting on
Okay.
your part.
And I would like to, so I would like to know when we have to notify the county clerk we notify.
Yep.
So I'd like to know when we notify the county clerk
Okay.
and how much it's gonna cost if we don't negotiate down with, so let's just get the maximum amount it could cost us. And then I think we should leave this maybe on our agenda item.
Okay.
And once we get that information back, then we can start our community outreach and see what kind of support we're gonna have.
Since we have, if we do less than 2 board members, how about the president and vice president and myself with Cassandra, we look at some listening campaign dates to maybe go out and hear what the people have to say. That's one thing I love about our community. Whether people agree or not, let's listen and let's hear what we have to say. And we'll give out information on if you run a levy at a certain percent, here's how it will affect you. You probably want that data as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think when we start setting dates, that's some information we need to come up with.
Okay.
If you have a house that you're paying taxes on this much, here's how much your taxes will go
So
up.
is it as simple as if we would run 100% levy, basically your taxes are going to double?
I can't answer that one.
I feel like we need to know. If it's 33%, does it mean it's going to be another third on top of what you're paying
Okay.
now?
It all comes down to how the assessor assesses properties and things. There's some formulas, but what I'll do is let me do some research to give you information. So when we talk to people, we can have a frequently asked questions and answer them on our website. And then we take that with us to meetings within the county so people can have that as a handout or a brochure, if you will, because we cannot force people to vote yes. We just want them to hear, here's the facts, and this is what we know, and we'll answer any questions the best we possibly can.
And is a levy only real estate or is it personal property as well?
Okay.
It's both,
And
and it's not as easy, it's just that your taxes will double, because it's
Yeah.
split into like
It's a convoluted formula, Mr. Rogan. We'll get it figured out, though.
fire maybe.
Ms. McClung had a suggestion some time back that if you could incorporate some of our outreach meetings with already established events.
In addition to.
We're gonna, if we just have an outreach meeting, we may not get a very good turnout
Right.
from previous history. So we can coordinate with any events that are taking place. We can look into a booth or something.
Okay.
And we could disseminate information.
You mean like railroad days coming up?
I was thinking about that, but I think right now what we need to know is when's the last date we can notify the clerk,
Okay.
what it's gonna cost us, and then at that point, when we have that information, we can start the outreach, start looking at outreach dates, and in the meantime, pull maybe an average, tax ticket and say, please, if you would, yeah, just, if you and him could look at some
Okay.
several different levels of tax tickets and say, okay, if we run a 30% level, here's how much these 3 tickets would increase. If we ran 100%, here's how much it would increase. Thank you very
Is
much.
this something we should possibly use our survey company for?
You could.
We could add that in.
Actually, that would probably be a real good fit.
I was just talking to Megan. You're gonna reach a whole lot more people that way.
Oh, I agree.
On the cost, probably your expensive part is gonna be, I would suggest doing all this through the fall years to make sure that we're following all the rules and meeting all the deadlines and making sure that it's what it's supposed to be. So that's gonna probably be your biggest fee.
So, do you think we could get away with having our outreach meetings before we get to that point?
Oh, yeah.
Engage our support.
Oh,
Especially
yeah.
if you're just
Okay.
getting a feel of it and, you.
Okay.
I wouldn't get the.
Yeah, 'cause I would rather not- Right, I would rather not incur that expense until we know for sure if we're gonna move forward.
We like working with Trey, but not that much.
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
All right, so we're not going to take any action on this. You are going to bring us some information back at the next meeting. And then we'll look at some dates for community outreach. All right, item E, this is one that we've kind of talked about at our work session and several other areas, but we put it on this agenda. So discussion or possible action to change the purchase policy threshold for board approval. So we currently have that set at 20,000. When we look at the state purchasing policy, it gives certain areas where different criteria have to be followed. $5,000 and under follow one criteria, then over 5,000 to 10,000 follows another criteria, 10,000 to 25, over 25 to 50, and then over 50. So what I kind of thought was we're right in the middle of one of those areas that requires. So if we have one item that's $19,000, we would not approve it. But if we have an item that's $21,000, we would have to approve it, even though those 2 items both have to fall under the same criteria. So my suggestion would be we set our approval amount at the top or bottom of one of those state purchasing policy criteria. I was not certain what level me as an individual person would want that set at, but I spoke to Ms. McClung about this at the last board meeting after the meeting, and she reminded me that we can pull any item at any time and handle that separately. So if we see an item for $5, we could pull that item as a separate item and handle it just like we would a current item, which would be over $20,000. So with that, initially I was kind of thinking the $25,000 range, but after she reminded me of that, I'm kind of open because as we review the bills, we can pull anything out at any time. We also have discussed having an emergency purchase policy for emergency, any emergency that would come up. So that's something we can look at in the future, but I'll entertain your all's thoughts on what you think that threshold for board approval should be.
What did you say is the breakdown there with
So-
20,000 falls?
20,000 falls between 10,000 and 25,000.
With what the information you just gave us and what McClung's advice, I would recommend we set it at 25. Just one opinion.
The
Any other?
brackets are 10 to 25, 25 to 50, and then 50 plus, just so you know all those. And then there's 5,000 and less and 5 to 10, but those don't require any competitive written anything.
A lot of counties are at 50 and 100 is what they
Yeah,
do.
well, if that's the highest, I mean,
Like you said, you can set it wherever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say most counties probably are at 50 or 100, but you guys can do whatever you want. But I will remind again, you can pull a bill that's, $2 if you want to pull a bill that's $2.
I was telling them 5, you're telling them 2.
Yeah,
And
don't
you
go,
can always
we're going
request-
lower.
You can always request the supporting documents for anything. I mean, we'll bring copies or
Yeah.
show you. You can call and ask their bids, whatever you want to do. But I would agree that can we make it one of the brackets?
What if- yeah.
So that it's easier to know what we have to have.
yeah.
So I would agree with Mr. Brogan. Like I said, 25 was kind of where my mind was based on what we had and where those breakdowns occur. And I had looked at, and I think you and I even talked about some of the requirements after you pass that 25,000 mark.
And the biggest one is 25 plus requires some kind of advertisement.
Yeah.
So once we get to that point, I mean, we have to have some kind of documentation for that.
And we need Trey to include this change of policy
Yeah.
for free.
Yeah. Any other comments? Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Brogan?
I was just thinking about something though, but if 25,000 is at the very top of that category, I mean, this might sound odd, but $25,001 bumps it up into the next category, so
So I think the policy is listed from 10,000 to under 25,000.
under 25,000.
So I think
Okay.
maybe what we
Right.
need it
Okay.
set at is purchases under, or purchases
Up to
25,000
And over.
and over.
Over, okay. I
Yes.
just want to see that, you
Yes.
see where the correct.
And I appreciate you
That's a
pointing
good
that
question.
out, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the way it's worded, it talks about 25,000 in both of them, but one says up to 25 and one says over.
Okay.
You're right.
Yeah,
So that's what we need our wording to
yeah.
be specific.
I will make a motion that we change the purchasing policy threshold to 25,000.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. McBride, that we change the purchasing policy to 25,000, requiring board approval. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the policy threshold for board approval has been approved. Item F, I did ask Mr. Orville to put this on the agenda. This is something we've talked about. And I think that last year we kind of let this one go a little longer than we should have. So I wanted to catch this kind of early in the school year. Our teachers a lot of times give up their planning periods to cover classes. And I believe when we first started this, I think it was $23 maybe they were getting, $25 to cover to give up a planning period and cover a class. So we threw a number of $30 out here to cover that. If you all have a different number in mind, I know.
We've been 37.50 in the past, I think at one point.
We were, and I want to think, were those for like math and English?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, the 30 was lining up with board policy that we pay people 30 an hour. A period would not necessarily be an hour, but it's still, we had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So people can get coverage if they so choose that. And obviously like to pay people more, but at the same time, we used COVID money, I believe, a year or two ago to bump it up for math especially, because those were actually math teachers who were actually covering math classes. That was the biggest difference. This is saying any teacher in any discipline just cover for a class.
Do you foresee this taking care of the problem?
No.
No.
No, here's why. If I teach all day and I need my planning time and I value it, I know if I was teaching right now, I don't know that I would. It's not amount of money. It's just your time. When you plan and you grade, that planning time is very valuable time. I don't know.
How many people are taking it? I mean,
Last year, it wasn't a lot of people that took advantage of it, but we're also in a position where you have a lot of people right now that are pretty new, 3 years and under into teaching. So we really don't want those people to, stretch themselves out too much too, It's just a shame that we're dealing with this. Unless, Mr. Kuhn has something to add, since you do personnel, did I pretty much,
We have a couple subs on the agenda coming up, so.
there's your answer then.
No, it was just a handful of people taking advantage of it, and when I was a teacher, I would have took the plan most of the time.
I would have too.
Just because you need that time to prepare for the students that you have. But it will help. I think it'll help a little bit.
Can I add?
Sure.
I think it's more of to add appreciation to those teachers that are stepping
Yeah.
Yeah.
in. To show them that we care that they're doing it.
Because we have some teachers doing it now
I think.
that may not be getting reimbursed for it. So,
Make it retroactive. We should.
should, but do we know for sure who and when covered?
Oh, we know who's covered. I mean, we can dig that up to see who's covered. If you do what retroactive, we would try to make sure but that's your call, because technically, I don't think like you guys like doing retroactive, but I understand why. I understand why.
Well, this is kind of a different instance.
yeah.
Well, you can make a motion to do that. It's a
Okay.
free country. Go ahead.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the payment for the teachers that have been teaching during their planning periods at the rate of $30 per planning period, and that we make it retroactive back to the first day of school. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
I was gonna second that too.
All right, I know I'm not gonna be able to, that was a mouthful, Ms. Farley.
Yes, it
So-
was.
We got the gist of it.
I have a motion on the floor by Mrs. Farley that we approve payment to teachers for teaching during their planning periods, and we make it retroactive. And we have a second by Mr. Brogan. Any further discussion? Sorry.
That's okay. As far as the new teachers go, would it, I don't want to, if it's working, let it be. But would it make sense to put some guardrails to say that you have to have 3 years' experience before doing it, or to not stretch them so thin?
I think they're professional enough to work with their mentors to figure that out. I know if I was a mentor, I would say, Dave, I think just get the first 9 weeks under your belt, something like that. Then if you feel comfortable, I think we can let them work with their mentors on that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good question.
That is a good question, because they're excited and
They want to please. I get it.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the payment to teachers for teaching during their planning periods has been approved. And it's retroactive. G, discussion of possible action to approve step increase for math and special education teachers. So you have a sheet in your folder which lists the names and the subject they're teaching, as well as, I don't know what that is, but it does list them down below some of the, is that the amounts below, is that the amount to the right as well? Okay. So the amounts are listed there. This is according to West Virginia state code that we're required to pay this for math and special ed teachers, this step increase. So this approval is more or less a formality.
Correct.
So I will go ahead and make a motion that we approve the step increases for math and special education.
Second.
Motion by myself, seconded by Mr. McBride, that we approve the step increase for math and special education teachers. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that step increase for math and special education teachers has been approved. Okay, we have before us superintendent recommendations for personnel, and the first one we're going to handle separately, and that is for, let me go back to my first page. Jennifer Mann, thank you. I just looked at that name. So Jennifer Mann is on your next to the last page, and it's for substitute teacher and professional employee. This is a county substitute fund. Long-term sub, English 5, AD. What's AD?
Adult ed.
Adult ed,
Yeah.
okay. So she can do English 5 through adult ed.
Through the senior year. They
Okay.
put adult as
Yeah.
a abbreviation.
Gotcha, okay.
It's something else that's tricky with an acronym.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve Jennifer Mann.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mrs. Farley, seconded by Mr. McBride, that we approve Jennifer Mann. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 4-0 vote that Jennifer Mann has been approved for employment, with Mrs. Harvey recusing herself. All right, now we have before us the remainder of the personnel. These have all been posted. You have resignation, retirements. You have a leave of absence. You have employee professional, employee service, employee mentor teachers and administrators. You have employment service extra duty, extracurricular, employment substitute teacher and professional employees, substitute service employees, homebound teachers, and then we have one correction from our last meeting, and that was just a correction on the name. So that's what we have before us. These have all been posted according to the required amount of time.
I make a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation in regard to personnel.
Second.
We have motion on the floor by Mrs. Farley, seconded by Mrs. Harvey, that we approve the superintendent's recommendations for personnel. All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that superintendent's recommendations for personnel have been approved. All right, so we are down to item 12, discussion of next agenda. I would like to go ahead and put our survey on the next agenda.
Okay.
Let's work that into a small mini work session, more or less. Not necessarily a work session per se on the survey, but we can, as a board, determine who wants to
Okay.
kind of head that from our side. Mr. Warville and myself have gotten some communication from the survey company already. They have an account set up, so he indicated to them that we would, as a board, have some discussions and get that process rolling. So if you'll put that on the agenda. I would also like, I don't know, I guess Mr. Kuhn, you probably could provide this to us. I'd kind of like, now that we're a little better than a month into the school year, I'd like to know how many certified teachers we have, or how many positions, classes we have without certified teachers. Just grade levels, and then when you get middle school, high school, which particular class it would be. That's all I
You
have.
also have the levy.
The levy,
Gave
yeah,
us
that's
the
going to
two.
carry over.
Yeah, okay.
I would say let's just leave that on the agenda until,
Gotcha. And then that's supposed to say 5 PM, not 6, I think. For
Yep.
Next meeting.
yep, agreed. Any other items?
Do we have, not sure how to put it, do we have something in place to provide free lunches for those who donate their time to
Yeah.
monitor? That just automatically,
Mhm. Yep. Dr. Knott takes care of all that. There's a list.
I would like to put that on the agenda to look at that next meeting.
Are you talking about for teachers who maybe give up their lunch period, lunchtime, or?
Well, they usually do a duty, not
Okay.
give up anything, so.
Okay,
Not always, but it just depends.
okay.
I can talk
It
to
would
Dr.
just-
Knott for that.
Just need to have a discussion, something I have in mind.
You can just put Dr. Knott for a presentation, so you can get that at the beginning, so she can go over that.
If we need to if you have in mind for anything that would require action, you
I
can
would-
put it as a separate item.
I would,
Or just have her ready to speak.
that's fine.
Okay, yeah,
I would like to compensate him a little.
I got you.
That's what I'm looking at.
You hit your head. Money man
You
giving
can
away
come have
money.
lunch with them, Kenny.
That would be compensation.
Riding high on being a
I mean,
football,
if I could say,
Above his head, is
That's-
that?
what do they pay for a lunch? What do they pay for a lunch currently?
I think it's around 4 something. I think it's 4 and a quarter, it could be wrong.
I mean, it's minimal,
Yeah.
but I'd like to give them $10 a day. That's just my thought.
I only jokingly said that he bumped his head because he's our money guy and he watches
not
every
joking.
dollar.
He's got the grandbaby on the way.
Yeah, he's got a
really generous.
grandbaby.
All right, any other items for next agenda?
To check the well-being of Mr. Brogan as a board.
Mr. McBride, you're on, item 13.
All right, I make a motion, we adjourn, the time is 7:30.